Okay, today is all about using complementary colors to mix and create neutral colors. In other words, browns and grays and blacks. So we're on the next page of the packet after the value packet, and you can see it's a chart here called Making Neutrals, Complementary Color Mixing. So right here at the top it says choose a complementary pair of colors. You have three options: yellow and purple, blue and orange, red and green. So at the paint stations today you have a tube of purple, a, a bottle of green, which is a phthalo green, and you have a bottle of it's cadmium red light, so it's basically the same kind of orange that we had when we did watercolor. So it's a red that looks like an orange red, and that's what you'll use today as orange. So you're going to choose one of those three complementary color pairs and complete the sheet using that color pair. The other color that you're going to need, if you look down here at the bottom of the sheet, is white paint. So I am going to use red and green for my example here. Over on the bulletin board, there is a completed example using yellow and purple, completed example, two different versions of orange and blue, and that's using this particular red orange that's available to us, and a partially finished example using the orange and green or red and green combination that I'm going to show you right now. So you can see I'm grabbing small amounts of red and green and a small amount of white. Obviously if you have those colors already in your palette, you're not going to need to grab them. So right here you can see on the sheet it says color number 1 at the top and color number 2 at the bottom. I am using red and green, so I'm just going to write red and green right here on my sheet. At the top it is just your color, so right here it just says color number 1. So I'm going to just follow the instructions on the sheet. This just says green, so I'm just going to go ahead and paint it green. This next box over on the grid says with a little white. So I'm going to do exactly what it says. I'm going to take my green paint. I'm going to put just a tiny bit of it down here. I'm going to put in a little bit of white to lighten that green color up. And then the next section over says a little bit more white. So I'm going to take that same pile and I'm going to add more white so that I make a lighter version of the green that's there. Okay. Now I'm going to start mixing the red and the green together. So what I'm going to do is rinse my paintbrush out and squeeze it dry. Rinse my paintbrush out and squeeze it dry. And the way this worksheet works the best is if you paint down and then over. Down and then over. Because what happens if I paint this whole row, right, and mix the colors, and then I have to add white, then I have to remix those colors to go back and add the white. So it does make it harder to do. So I am going to follow the instructions here. It says color number 1 with a little color number 2. Well, my color number 1 is green. So I'm going to take my green pile right here. I'm going to divide it in half actually. I don't need that much. And I'm going to add what it says, a little color number 2. So I'm going to add a little red to my green. And I'm going to paint the color that I make right underneath. Now it says to add white, so I'm going to take and I'm going to add a little bit of white. What this does is it kind of shows us the color a little bit differently. So sometimes colors are really dark. Add a little white. I'm going to add a little more white. And you can see that I made a darker green than was above, right? Oh, I didn't do a very good job of color, mixing my color. My paint's kind of striped here. Now I'm going to clean my paintbrush out and I'm going to paint again. This middle row should be either brown or gray, just depending. So I'm going to take a little more red this time. Looks about the same, so I'm going to grab a little more red. There we go. I'm going to paint that on there. These top 9 colors will all belong to the first color, so they should all be green. And add a little bit of white. And a little bit more white. So you can see, those bottom 2 are kind of the same, sort of similar looking. Leave it be. This one should be neutral, so it'll either be gray or brown. So using these 2 colors now, I'm going to see what I can get for either gray or brown. So I'm going to take my green again, move it down here. I'm going to take some red, and I'm going to mix the 2 of them together until I feel like I have something that either feels gray or brown. That feels fairly gray to me right now, but I'm not going to know for sure until I mix in some white, which is kind of why we lighten things up. You can see that that looks just straight black, and it is indeed sort of a greenish gray. I'm going to lighten that up again. Once I get all the way across here, I am going to do the opposite. So I'm going to start over with my red down here at the bottom. And I'm going to just paint with clean red. I'm probably going to have to go get some clean water because my water is very murky and green right now. So I'm just going to grab just some plain red. And then I would add white to my red, obviously, as I move across. But I'm going to do the exact same process. So here's my red. I'm going to add a tiny bit of green to darken the red. So you can see there, my red is nice and darker than that first red. And now I'm going to grab a little white to lighten that up. And a little more white. So if I add too much of the complementary color, my color will totally shift. So this color, if it was ever green, or one of the top colors, if they were ever red, I would know that I added too much of that color. So it's one thing for you to think about. Also, these should all be fairly dark, right? They don't have any white in them at all. Let's see if I have enough of this red left here to make a darker red. You see, quite a bit darker. Then I'm going to add white. And add white again to finish the sheet. This is what you are going to work on today in class, is mixing and making neutrals.